What's the big idea?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to another
back.
edition of Volleyballogy. Quick note off the top before we get into the topic. We want to thank everybody for we hit over 500 subscribers now.
Yep.
So that's pretty good. So that's like a
Pretty sweet.
that's like a subscriber every month. No. no, it's going pretty quickly. So we're very appreciative. People messaging us, letting us know, thanking us for what we're doing, and appreciating the show. And that's always nice to hear, because sometimes you do these shows and you're talking into the abyss, and we don't know if people are finding value. So hopefully you are finding value, and if you are, of course.
Wait, you're talking to me, not the abyss.
Oh, right. Sorry, talking to the abysmal.
Oh,
Eric.
nice.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm talking to you. That's true. But no, we don't know, we're meaningful conversations, but we think are meaningful. So it's nice to know that other people finding them meaningful. So if you are listening to this and you like this, or you enjoy these shows, hopefully subscribe. Or even if you hate us, subscribe so you can see what those jerks have said this week. Right?
It's funny how there's so much of that, like us or hate us talk.
Right.
It's either you like something or hate it.
You can like us or hate us.
There's no in between.
No, or we're the people you love to hate, maybe.
Well, yeah.
We don't mind that.
I like the optimism in there.
We're like the bad wrestlers.
Or like the refs you just can't argue with.
Yeah, the refs. Yeah.
We're not refs. We're not.
No.
Points of authority.
No. We're just two guys rambling on in a really nice podcast studio.
Yeah. High end.
So this episode, by the way, is about dealing and coping with injuries.
And this is episode 30.
This is episode 30. So a milestone.
Zuby messed that up
Yes.
2 episodes ago.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I miscounted.
Yeah, you were excited.
I was excited. I was premature in my premature calculation, I believe it's called. Get a little
Happens
excited
in your life, hey?
It doesn't usually happen to me, but once in a while,
Yeah.
I can prematurely calculate.
So today's topic.
Okay, today's topic, kid show, dealing and coping with injuries. So this is a good episode, we hope, for players, parents, coaches. We've had our own injuries in our career.
We're injured right now.
I'm dealing
Kind
with
of.
one. Are you dealing with one?
I mean, at my age,
Emotional injury, I guess.
I'm always dealing with an injury now.
like emotional injuries.
Yes.
Yes.
And emotional injuries.
Yes.
Yes.
You're 30. What now?
35.
35. Wow.
I know.
That was 13 years ago for me. I'm 48. In case you're wondering, put in the comments if you think I look 48. Because
don't comment about
don't do that.
injuries,
Don't do that.
comment about your age. Yeah.
If you're only listening to us, you should know that I am 48. Did I say 38? I'm 48. I said 48. I said 48. I'm 48, but people often think that I'm just a baby.
Yeah.
Because I'm very young looking for my
You got great hair. Yeah.
I have some gray hair, mostly on my back.
I said great hair.
Oh, great hair.
Yeah,
I think I said gray hair.
Yeah.
I do have, I also have
now
great.
I know you have silver back hair.
I have I'm a silverback.
Wow.
No, I don't. I'm completely hairless. I'm like one of those cats. You know those? Anyway, let's get on with the show.
Yeah.
Stop it, Eric.
Uh-huh.
So dealing with injuries, we've had injuries in our lifetime, our age. That's why we came up with that. So my injuries, quick. I'll say them quickly. So I had the first major. I was lucky because I didn't have any major injuries as a player. I don't think. I mean, I had a wrist. I broke my wrist, but that was after the season. Oh, I remember in university, I did have a broken finger. I had a broken finger in
blocking or something.
I don't know. I think I was picking my nose and I sneezed.
No.
It was. I don't know what caused it, but I remember I was limited playing time in a playoff game that really mattered for us, and it sucked because, such a star. And
A premature star.
Yeah, no. So I had that, but I never lost a full season. Like some young athletes today, they're going through that. But my major injuries all happened as an adult. So I had a shoulder injury when I was 28, and then I had shoulder surgery that took me out for a long time.
Yeah, your shoulder's a good one that I'm sure we can talk more about, right?
Yeah, shoulder's been a good one or a bad one, but it's evolved into something better. Like now, my shoulder's better than when I was in my 20s because of stuff that we can tell people about training and then my second major injury was a ankle roll. I never rolled my ankle my whole life until I was like, maybe that was mid 30s, and then
so it was co-ed. Playing like co-ed?
No, men's.
Oh,
men's.
Okay. You land on someone or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Landed on someone.
Well, that's literally nothing you can do about that.
Just warned my team about the erratic hitting of the other team. It was a good team, but they were frequently
crossing the line.
So I just told my teammates.
Or blocking?
Yeah. When they were hitting, I told my teammates, just be careful because they're like super aggressively jumping, and some of them you're noticing their feet are coming down like halfway across the line. And I was literally in the air 2 seconds after that, the first point of the match, second point of the match. And I was like, oh, crap, because I saw this person was coming in tight. And I went down, rolled my ankle, worst one of my life. So. And I never, so that was that. And then I did I had a quad pull that was pretty bad later on. Like, yes, once you hit past 35, that's when they start creeping in, right? The more and more injuries. And then calf, I had a calf, like a calf tear that was pretty bad, and then this recent one is the Achilles tendon ripped on me. Coming out of the lockdowns, right? Played a lot of beach, but not indoor for like 2 years where we are. So a few weeks into a season where I sort of signed up for too many league nights. Yeah. And then
you went from 0 to 100.
0 to 100. Felt pretty good.
At 48.
At 48.
47?
47 back then, just a few months ago. And then
and we were playing 4s in a 6s league.
Yes, we were short players then. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we chose to play 4s.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
because it'd be more fun. And
was the calf tear? What was that?
Calf tear, I forgot. So I used to wear calf sleeve, like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I was wearing calf sleeves. The calf tear happened years ago, like maybe 7-8 years ago.
Well, it's not the same leg as the...
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's usually interesting.
I was wondering if I wore the calf sleeves or if I remembered that I wore calf sleeves or compression.
Well, there may not be coincidence there. I think there's coincidence in how lopsided our sport is. Like it's very imbalanced. And so you're going to notice, listeners, you're going to get some weird injuries on one side. And like, I have a weird thing in my left shoulder. It's actually probably not from volleyball, but limited range in my left shoulder, even though I hit right. So I don't know why, but it's actually probably not from, I think it's from snowboarding, but it's just like the fact that it's happened to your left leg. The Achilles thing, I totally get. It happened at that moment.
That was my right leg.
Oh, that was your right leg.
Yeah.
Well, still.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I watched it when it happened. It was right at the point when there was like maximum tension on the muscle, right? And then it was
just a little push off. It was a little push off. But that's
like,
where the full extension is. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the muscle is fully activated, and it goes from, it's a static start. So it goes from nothing to, it's not like you were in motion.
No, it's the push off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's the thing about, and also too, one of the reasons it happened, and we'll talk a little bit about this today, but let my workouts fall off a little bit there because I got busy with organizing some league stuff, and that's always the case. It's very rare. In my history, I find that injuries happen when you're either some people who overtrain and they don't know how to train properly, and then they get injured a lot. Or there's people who take a break from the training or fall off, and then they go out and try to go, do their old thing.
And you even foresaw it.
I did.
2 weeks prior, you complained about
I had a vision.
Right calf. Your right Achilles specifically. You said it felt weird.
My calves are feeling
tight. It feels weird in these shoes. I was like, all right,
new shoes, elevated heel. That was not letting
every shoe has an elevated heel now.
Well, yeah,
it just felt different, the amount of lift.
Well, the problem is if it's too elevated, then you're not getting
shortening the range.
Yeah, your calf's never getting that elasticity, and that's why the minute I switched to these brand new shoes, I was like, my calves are tight. I'm a little worried about them, and then a couple weeks later, boom.
Well, yeah, because as you're like on the court, your range of motion is now slightly reduced, and then when you go into that starting your spike approach, it goes from
It wants to go deeper.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you go to max range,
Yes.
and so you haven't worked that range out in your warm up, and then so
and the shoes are not allowing for this is why flat shoes are becoming a thing, by the way, folks. Like if you're like for training, and there's a lot of nice balance things. And
I think they call them zero drop or neutral shoes.
Yeah.
And so at work, like I walk around a ton, and I just wear some like Nike running kicks and like comfy whatever, and then I got a neutral pair of shoes I wore them the other day. It's amazing. I just feel so comfortable, and I can actually feel my like calf like lengthen out more. I wouldn't say fully. I don't know what full range it is, but even those few millimeters, it just feels like I'm actually going through more range of motion. My calf muscle is, and it just feels nicer because I'm getting a little stretch compared to like the runners I wear.
It's
all the time.
funny too because old school
and a wider toe box and stuff, right? So that feels really nice.
Yeah,
it's just
but it's funny because old school volleyball shoes were flat. They always were.
Really?
Like the old Asics, the Asics Tigers that, when I was playing in high school back in the 90s, all the volleyball shoes were flat. It wasn't until the evolution of the Air Jordans and the basketball shoes that volleyball shoes started to try to match and to look as cool and to get thicker soled. But if you go back and watch old school volleyball, all the players were wearing flat soled court shoes.
Dude, I bet you people's landing mechanics were different.
Yeah.
Like they were, because the thing is, if you get into bigger, pillowy, more cushiony shoes, the risk is typically, it is at launch point when all that muscle is contracting, but also the land, like how you're landing. And so if you got a big pillowy shoe, you can start to land in ways that, you're not really using your muscles to decelerate.
Yep.
You're actually letting your shoe do part of the job, and then like your joints, and then.
But it gives your body the false sense of your height. So your proportions are off. So if you have a thick soled shoe, every time you bend over, you're bending over in a little different way than you would on your natural foot.
Dude, millimeters are huge in the body.
And you're just like, this is why, you don't want to do deadlifts in like thick soled shoes, because now your body mechanics.
Everyone does it in flats.
Yeah, because your body mechanics are being messed up by the thickness of the sole.
Yeah.
So people have to understand that stuff. That's why the barefoot training and like shoeless workouts are coming back, because we're realizing that.
Or the old school Converse, right?
Yeah, these shoes are just throwing off what your body is now bending in a way that is not anatomically correct for what your real height is. Yeah. And that causes injuries and problems, because then you change shoes for another sport. And now your body's operating on one set of principles for that shoe, and then you're going off to these other shoes that are different soles. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. You make the case that you should do everything barefoot.
Yeah. Well,
indoor volleyball.
Like, it's not just the height difference, but that cushiony material, especially when you're deadlifting, like you need that proprioception, feeling your feet planted into the ground, because that's where your arch of your foot starts, and then you're going to find power by creating that that arch, that dome, that support, then up through your legs. So if it's all cushiony, your ankles could be rolling in. You don't really know. You're not able to getting all that feedback.
That feedback, exactly. And this ties in. So for parents, like,
it's gonna go all the way up into the knees, into the hips, into the back, like.
And I mean, the big thing is the ankles, right? Like, so in volleyball, a lot of parents listening, the debate on ankle, like we're gonna do a whole episode on ankle supports, because everybody thinks, and there are some coaches who mandate mandatory ankle braces in practice and in games because they think they're doing players a favor. And I'll tell you right now that all you're doing is training your body to not strengthen your own ankles. Your body is saying, oh, I don't need to stabilize the ankle because here's this external thing doing for me. So we'll talk about, and we're going to come up with guides on how to bulletproof sort of your body for volleyball, and that the ankles are a big part of it. So
why is it called mandate?
Mandate?
Yeah.
Probably.
Like, is this a mandate?
Probably because, is this a mandate?
I don't know.
This is an appointment. This is a male appointment.
Okay.
For work purposes only. Yeah. But sure. I don't know.
It's weird. I'm just saying, it's a weird word.
Yeah, it probably has something to do with male. I mean, human and mandate.
Yeah, but then date specific.
Let us know in the comments. Anyway, so those are my injuries. What were your major injuries in life, volleyball life?
Okay. So,
I left out my piriformis. Sorry. My piriformis, leg numbness when I was jumping.
Oh, right.
For a few years. Yeah, it was like
it's a weird one.
Driving related, tension related, and every time I was jumping, my legs were going numb, so I couldn't jump for a couple of years. But I fixed it. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a weird one.
Well, like more context for your injuries. Like you've got some like you play varsity high level volleyball, and then you became a teacher. And mind you, you're still quite active then. But then after teaching, well, actually, after teaching, you started your own business and you got out of teaching, and then your daily physical movement kind of changed a little bit,
yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, I became a driver and an office guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're stressing about your business. You still stay up really late.
Yeah.
Like but I mean,
I fixed it though with certain exercises. I just learned I was a few exercises away from undoing all the tension of sitting, driving.
Yeah. But I think the effects of those are still like there.
Oh yeah.
Like sitting and driving. Like it's hard to.
Yeah. Yeah, I just there's certain things I can do though. Like I found out basically, if people want to know, I found out it was nerve entrapment. So, which is nothing like police entrapment. But it's basically a nerve in my piriformis muscle was trapping a nerve, and I could floss the nerve. So if people don't know about this stuff,
nerve flossing,
pretty
really
interesting
cool,
stuff that you can a lot of pain and a lot of issues might be caused because a nerve is trapped in muscle fibers. So you can actually do certain exercises to loosen these nerves and get them moving again. And that's what did it for me. I found a series of stretches. I could go do them courtside before I played, and then I jumped and I had no issues.
And that's totally gone now, right?
It's totally gone as long as I do those things, and as long as keeping active and working out and training. This Achilles injury has put a dent in my training, but it's coming back. I had for a few good leg workouts the last couple of weeks and really gone on full tilt. I can do single leg calf raises again with no pain and no discomfort. So that's a good sign. It almost feels identical to the left. So that's one thing we're going to talk about at the end of this episode, recovery, because that's the biggest thing. And then the mental hurdle of coming, like that's what I still have to go over now. Like when am I ready to go and do a spike approach, or when am I ready to really try it out? So I'm going to ease myself in with some setting, I think, not to diminish setting, but at least I don't have to jump and do the spike approach as much. Versus like it's a stagnant jump, maybe if I'm block jumping, but I don't have to go in and do a massive spike approach, or stay on the ground a lot while I set and then work my way into more. But the real test is in the gym. Like there's certain benchmarks that I look up and research, and then okay, if you're doing this, then you're ready for this. And if you're not ready for this, and that'll help a lot, I think.
You kind of get that as you get older, like those benchmarks, kind of an idea.
And you learn, like a lot of kids listening or parents listening right now, you learn that the biggest hurdle with injuries really, honestly, comes at the end when you're almost ready to make that comeback. Of course, there's the depression, but man, when you have to go in a game again and do that same movement that caused the injury, you got to be like really, and that's where the gym comes in, and you got to test it out.
Well, especially in the injuries where you didn't have control over it, like the landing on someone's foot or the
right.
Those are the ones that I think are the scary ones. It's because there's that thing you can't control, unfortunately.
And just like, well, even when I rolled my ankle bad, like I never had a rolled ankle my whole career. No ankle braces, nothing. So I always worked on balancing things, and that's what people.
Well, and you played soccer,
played different sports, sports basketball too, and but you still have that mental hurdle coming back. Like if you roll your ankle, like you still worry about it because you're just not used to it, right? So
you do get over it though.
Like, well, what were let's go through your injuries.
So when I was young, I had this weird thing. This was right before like getting recruited to varsity. I had my right IT band, and the IT band I'm pretty sure is not a muscle. It's a tendon, ligament. I forget. Yeah. But it's like one of your abductors, and so
that's on the outside of the quad.
Yeah.
On the side of the outside. A lot of people right now, if they like rub the outside of their quads, like with their hands deeply, they'll feel like it feels pretty good to do that.
Go from your hip down to your knee on the outside. Yeah. It can feels
good because it's very tight in most people.
Right. Mine was hyper inflamed, and it just at one point in practice, I go to split hop getting ready, and I just fall over.
Really?
It just gives out, and like no feedback. It hurt, but like I had because it's not a muscle, right?
Yeah.
It did something where the nerve said nope, and then it just shut down.
No pain?
No, it hurt, but it wasn't like a muscle slowly giving out where I just like it hurt.
No warning. Yeah.
I just dropped, and then I was like, oh, like. Pretty scary, weird.
Wow.
So
did you run in the circle on the ground like whoop whoop whoop, whoop like Curly from Three Stooges?
No.
You should have.
Well, the thing is, like I could.
You must have been terrified.
It was weird, but the thing, no, I got up and then I was still able to go back into a split hop. So something happened, and then I started to notice like as soon as I touched it, it was like a lot of pain. And then if I did try to stay at that pace of movement, it just wouldn't work, and then it would happen again. But I think it's because I was still playing a lot of hockey at that time, and hockey is like,
outside toes.
Yeah, your external rotators, right?
Yeah.
Your glutes, all that stuff. For every time you push is like all of your external rotators, your hips open and then you kick back, right? So like I was definitely overdeveloped on the abductors and the external rotators and the glutes and the quads, right? My inner hamstrings.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, it's always an imbalance, right? There's something you got to do.
And it was my right leg, right? So I'm right hand dominant. So typically, when you're starting your spike approach, like it can be
that second step is explosive, right? So
yeah. And I noticed actually in my shoes that my one right side wears on a certain point of my shoes more than my others, because it seems to be the leg I tend to favor more. Like obviously you want to practice it, like when you go for the pancake and you go with your right instead of your left, and you're like, why didn't I go with my left?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it dominant leg, it's probably just doing more. That was a weird injury. Luckily, like my mom just took me to like physio, and we got into some weird stretches and like rolling it out. Actually, rolling wasn't even a big thing then. Funny, eh?
Oh, back then you did it though, and it was new? Is that what you're saying?
I think I don't even think I did rolling. I just did this one stretch where, again, you can't feel it very well because it's a tendon. You just like kind of wrap your leg up behind you and sit your...
Gotcha,
yeah. I did stuff like that and then rest, right? And then it was fine. So that one wasn't season ending or whatever. And then I go forward and then I get into varsity. And then this is just from overuse, like preseason training. We went pretty hard, like running, training, doing all this crazy stuff. I ended up getting plantar fasciitis. That was really painful.
Yes.
But that was pretty easy. So now, again, I'm with the varsity team and we have an athletic department. So they just like giving me all this treatment, all this stuff. And then I recovered probably within like 3-4 weeks. I was able to keep playing. There was a lot of like rolling the foot on like a lacrosse ball, stuff like that, stretching the quads, stretching the calves, basically stretching the whole posterior chain. Yeah. So plantar fasciitis is when your fascia on the bottom of your foot, sole of your foot, starts to actually like, it's being torn away from the muscle. I'm not describing this perfectly well.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But
it's like a hyperextension feeling on the bottom.
Yeah, it's like all the connective tissue is being stretched so hard, it's actually starting to separate from the muscle. So you get like all these little tears, and it's just really, really painful. You basically, when you try to like kick your heel back, it's like, flattens it out and it hurts.
And the solution generally is stretching the calf, working the tibia on the front even sometimes, people, but especially that back. Yeah. Because that's what it's pulling
right, connected to your calves, connected to hammies.
It's funny how that works, eh? Like it's just the old knee bone connected to the hip bone and all that stuff. It's like, so I don't think the knee bone is connected to the hip bone, is it? Yeah, I guess it would be the hip bone.
Knee bone.
Oh, what's the song? The knee bone's connected to. What's the rest? I don't know. But anyway, the connections are funny because you think your problem is here, but the problem to there is actually way up here.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny how that works with the body. That there's so many.
That song wanted to be totally correct, it would just say the whatever fascia is connected to
the fascia. It's all encased in fascia.
Yeah, look up the fascial webs.
Yeah,
it's really
if people
crazy.
know, fascia is like the casing. That's sort of that white substance that you'll see on other animals' muscles or on human muscles, and it basically you can have a flexible body, but you might not be working on your fascia. So if you have flexible fascia, that will really help your whole body become truly more flexible.
Yeah,
a lot of people spend time on muscles, but they don't do things. And that's where like yin yoga is like well known for fascia stretching. And that's sort of what was prescribed to me too. Like in my case with the piriformis and that nerve thing, the fascia stretching, yin yoga, hold these poses for 5 to 10 minutes. It's like crazy. It's so hard to do. Yeah. But it's the mental training, right? It comes with something like that. Yeah. You're like, I don't know if I can do this. You're like, well, try.
The relief is pretty crazy. Yin yoga is amazing.
And more injuries for you?
So plantar fasciitis, and then like moving forward from there, that's when like I had my hiatus from volleyball. Wasn't playing it very much.
Yes, hiatus. Yeah,
is that right?
Good word. Yeah,
nice.
I wonder why. No.
And then when I came back to playing varsity again, I ended up tearing my quad, but for really weird reasons. Is that I was messing around.
Remember, this is a kid show, Eric.
No, I was doing stupid stuff with nutrition. So at this point, I took a hiatus because of issues, mental health issues, and I was solving it with like nutrition. And then nutrition got better. I'm back into varsity. It was in tryout actually, but I was messing around with sodium, and, like adding a lot of salt.
Right.
And then I was actually messing up my body because salt, like you start to mess with electrolytes, you're going to mess with you can affect swelling in your body because your body is now going to hold to, all right. Basically, I was just creating swelling in my body.
Yeah.
So then I went to jump, and then I ended up hearing a pop in my quad, and my legs didn't feel right that day. They felt like swollen. And I think, I don't know, that's just my theory. Or I was just not flexible, which probably not, because I was doing a ton of yoga at that time.
Yeah, you were really into yoga at the time. Yeah.
All I know is that I was definitely, my diet was not on point.
You can't do too much of anything without a consequence.
Yeah, and just like you, I foresaw this. I knew I wasn't right. I wasn't feeling proper, like healthy, and then I still went to this thing, and then sure enough, like this happens. And so like I still get mad at myself for that happening. But so yeah, quad tear, lateral quad on left leg, sorry. But the good thing is that, again, athletic therapy. So like they took care of it, and like scar tissue, like barely ever built up.
Nice.
It was nice. And then it was like it never happened. But then that summer I ended up tearing it again because I got into this like really heavy squat leg program. So it kind of came back. But the thing is, there's a little bit of scar tissue now, but it's like, it's pretty good. Like I know how to take care of it. I just have to like keep moving, keep stretching. That wasn't bad. And then I rolled an ankle. It's the only time I've ever had a bad ankle roll. I've had small ones that maybe put me out for a day. This one I landed on my buddy's foot. I went to hit a C ball, and he's covering my hit. Yeah.
I hate it when people come too close.
It was, we know who it is. It was Pete.
Pete Carter? Pete,
my beach partner.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
And he's got big clodhopper feet. And I'm like, what are you doing? And it was bad. Like, it was mega bad. Like, black all the way up.
So you were running pipe, and this is reverse?
I was running C-ball.
C-ball.
No,
okay.
in men's volleyball varsity.
So where was he? Oh,
he was covering.
And he's at front court middle?
I forget. Something
he would have
like
been, right? Probably, yeah.
Or maybe he was front court middle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He must have been front court middle if you're coming in.
Yeah,
that's
the dumbest.
Well, so he's trying to do the right thing, but overdoing it.
And this one was bad. Like, I was out for like a good 2 months.
So he was covering where you were landing.
yeah. It was. But again, like, so in that injury and like the one where I hurt my quad, the depression wasn't as bad. For sure, it still happened because I'm out. But when you have an athletic therapy team there, and then like, because literally every day I'm at school, like learning and stuff, and then I go to AT every day. So it's different. Like,
super lucky.
Yeah, it gives you confidence. Like, and then
if they're good, by the way.
If they're good,
sometimes
they're awesome.
Yeah, sometimes you don't luck out and you get the wrong advice, and there's still some people stuck in old ways of thinking, especially now. But if you have a good team, it also for peace of mind, right?
It was, and I knew enough myself, and I kind of like was assertive enough with my body. I'm like, look, this isn't working. This is working. Like, we're going to go with this. And they were like, they still very much respected that people know their body better than, right. So that's a big thing, actually.
I remember that notion in society.
Yeah. Like, hey, these people know their bodies better than.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to get political, but yes. And then what other injuries?
And then other than that, it got just from pure volume of, I think in my third season, my shoulder just got to the point where like I couldn't even lift it.
Yeah.
So I was getting mega bad, just, I don't know.
Rotator cuff tendonitis.
Yeah. Just impingement like in the front. And then I figured out, I ended up changing my volleyball attack because I was very square. And my left and right shoulder were very much upright, and then I would put my arm straight up.
Right.
And then I learned I had to do this because when I'm straight up, then I'm pinching too tight in here.
Really? You didn't reach when you hit?
No. I wasn't reaching. I wasn't elevating my right shoulder. I was very much straight up and down and like swinging down. I've never had, I had a bad volleyball swing for a long time.
I had a really bad one too, but I almost reached. That was the problem. I almost reached like, you reach and then but my thing was like my arm was too far out, so
when it's to the side and
too much weight on the joint. That was the problem for me for years, and most players my age, we were all swinging wrong. We didn't have the mechanics, we weren't taught to keep it inside and make it more like a whip than an arm motion.
Some people naturally just picked it up though, right? Like
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I didn't have any shoulder problem until like the night for me. It was not a degenerative thing. It was an injury on a cold night where I didn't warm up and we were late getting to the venue, and it was a men's league. And first set came to me, obviously because I'm the best player. So
yeah,
and gotta send a message.
You gotta
right?
warm up your jumpers and your hitting shoulders. Nothing worse than hitting a ball cold.
So it was the first hit of the night. I was like, oh, what was that? That was weird. And then the rest of the night it was bugging me. And then sure enough, over a couple weeks, I couldn't raise my arm, couldn't write on the chalkboard, and so, but then like I didn't know stuff that I know today. Like my that shoulder injury plagued me forever. After I was 28 when it happened, and it just like I could play, but it would just I'd pay for it the next day, and I didn't know about some of the stuff that we know today about full range of motion and
you did the surgery thing.
I did surgery, and I wish I didn't. It didn't help me, and the only thing that helped me later was changing my weight training a bit and yoga. And range of motion stuff worked, and the surgery was more of a cleaning of cartilage that had come off the bone a bit. I think I told this story in an earlier episode, because you think of our healthcare system as some amazing high-tech world, and I'm like, what are you guys going to do in there when you look at my shoulder? I go, well, what we're going to do is we're going to staple your cartilage back to the bone. And I said, wow, that's very high-tech of you. Like just like hold still. It's like wow, that's not the answer I thought I was going to get.
I fixed one of those the other day.
You did? A shoulder?
No, a stapler that they use to
staple bones. Staple
whatever.
Staple things in surgery.
Tissue.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they look like? Are they like carpet guns?
They're just nice high-grade metal and pneumatic, and they fire staples, and they cost a lot of money.
And what are the do the staples look much different than carpet staples?
I didn't actually have a cartridge of the staples, actually. I didn't actually test it.
Did you try it on your body?
No. No, actually, we weren't able to fix it. We did try to, but then if we can't fix it, we send it.
So is it a big elaborate thing?
No, it's just like it just looks like a gun. Again, it's medical, so it's like high-grade metals and stuff, and it's it just has to be built in such a way that it can be cleaned and stuff.
Okay.
But it fired off staples that were about, I'm sure there's different staple guns for different whatever uses and like whatever. But this one was like, I don't know, like half an inch. And it's pretty gnarly.
That's what they were going to do with me.
Yeah,
and then they didn't though. They didn't. So when I was getting ready, preparing myself mentally for a lifetime of metal detectors at the airport, which is never good for a brown man. But that ties into the end of our last episode. But then they said when they went in when they went in there, they saw it wasn't that bad. And they said that they did a cleaning, a scraping and a cleaning. And they said the good news is it's not degenerative. So this wasn't...
and it's good they didn't actually like cut and staple stuff. They just kind of cleaned it.
Yeah, they cleaned it. And the good news was they said that it's not going to be something...
means though, cleaned.
Well, I guess there was some cartilage from that injury. Like there must have been some abrasions in there, or like that day that I was cold and not warm. Maybe something rubbed something and it caused
ripped and
some chipping. Yeah, something. So they just scraped and cleaned. But it never really helped until I started doing better training and stabilizing the joint. I did rehab and I did physio, and so for any athletes out there, there are ways to get beyond the physio. Like sometimes physiotherapists, if you have a good athletic training team, if they're stuck in like old
these
school,
guys, I can't call them physios because like these were student ATs and they were working under an experienced athletic therapist. But yeah.
And one of their strengths might have been listening to you, right? Like that's a strength.
Yeah.
And they don't have the ego yet.
I think the good thing was the fact that they were students, actually.
Exactly.
And it was very much a working together thing.
Yes.
I had a lot of say in what worked and what didn't and what I want to do more of, which was awesome.
Yeah. Like coaching, it's kind of the same problem. Like if they're 30 years in and they don't listen to you, and then because the ego is in and they have too much built up on this reputation, and the full range of motion for players listening out there, parents who have players who have had injuries that just didn't go away, just know that do some research from reputable sources. Find one thing. I think for every injury, I think we can both agree, like range of motion exercises, as long as you don't overdo it on the weight that you put in. That's the problem. I think people get into range of motion exercises and they add too much weight.
For sure.
Or they try to do the same squat weight that they normally do, and they do it on a deep squat and they blow at their knee. But you have to lighten the weight or just start with body weight and get that range of motion into joints, ankles, knees, hips.
Yeah.
And you will see that, and shoulders too, right? We had all this bad information when I was growing up, like don't send your knee over your toe when you're doing a lunge, and never. That's only if you're overloaded, right? Now we know, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to send out some guides, like really inexpensive guides for parents and players, about range of motion and how players can really make their body as bulletproof as possible.
Yeah, and the more experience you have in your body doing movements, the better. Because like my experience with my athletic therapist, I came from like 6 years of doing yoga and then volleyball before that. So like I knew my body pretty well.
Eric was almost a yogi. Like you were pretty much ready to become an instructor, right?
Yeah. I took exactly. It was mostly just for, I tried the teaching, wasn't very good at it or interested in it, but I mostly did it just for like my own like knowledge.
You did a lot of it though. Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of threw them off, is that they're talking about muscles and all this. And I was able to like understand what they're saying. And they're like, oh geez. Like, and then that kind of made them like, okay, this guy,
you were older.
We can work
too,
with
right?
And I was,
you were older students.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Younger students would just listen to whatever they said. Not that they didn't know, but
because knowing your body more, and the only way you're going to know your body more is by doing exercise and stuff, and like playing sport. Playing sport, you're developing coordination. Playing other sports, you're developing more coordination with how, like, whether it's running or with a ball or whatever. And then doing like yoga or some type of fitness stuff. Now you're getting more. So you're just gaining more information on how the mechanics, how your body should move.
Mm-hmm.
And because then as you get older, like we are now, it changes, where I ended up doing a jump program 2 years ago, mid lockdown. And then I got like so bummed out by the following lockdown. But anyways, when I was doing a jump program for like 6 months, and I basically just focused on a lot of mobility and improving range of motion. I was only doing quarter body weight at most. So clearly I'm not gaining power. I was just gaining range of motion. I probably gained 4 inches of vertical, which is nuts, right? Yep. And nowadays, like my body is still stiffening up. I'm trying to address it now. And the way I feel better, like for sure, I'm still doing the easy thing now is to just like grab weight and do squats and whatever. The hard thing now is to actually do yoga, because that's kind of actually more painful, and painful in that like I'm seeing how bad my range of motion is. But after I do it, I just feel so much better, and I'm probably getting, performance wise, I'm probably jumping higher. So there's that subjectivity of, you need to know where your body's at. Now, the good thing about being a young athlete is like I think the body kind of is naturally somewhat flexible already at that age. And like, if we can give you any advice, it's just to like maintain that.
Yep.
Because you're going to get older, and you're going to have to go to college and work a job, and you're going to have to sit down a whole bunch at a computer, and it sucks. And then you get into these weird, like it's funny, when I was like, after doing yoga, and I met all these guys in varsity, and they're all complaining about their hips and stuff. I'm like, what do you got? Like, I'm 27, you guys are 22, and you got hip issues. And it's funny because now I'm 35 now, and I'm like, oh, this is where the hip things come from. Is from not doing yoga all the time and like sitting down and blah blah blah. So
yeah, sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah,
that's what they say, right? Because we have to undo a lot. No, yeah, you said something interesting. There was that the idea, like knowing your body is huge.
It's huge.
And one interesting thing people can do is, if you are training or if you are doing some stuff, you can record yourself working out, not to post on social media, but to see what weird little things your body's doing in a squat. Like if your knee stays in, or your knee comes out, or one knee comes out, or it's very helpful to know that stuff, because then you can look up ways to correct that stuff too, because not that everything needs to be symmetrical. And sometimes, form is even overrated. I know it sounds crazy to some people to hear this, but there's something about getting strong in the way you move. Right? Like how your body mechanics are. Sometimes you should get strong in those positions. And I know that's controversial to some people. A lot of people are like, it's got to be perfect form. It's got to be perfect form. But mechanics and our body makeup are a thing. And some people are built a little differently than others. So a lot of deadlifters and like world champion deadlifters, they will lift technically wrong, but they are getting the best results because they've gotten their body to lift the most in the way they move. That idea that we're all the same is not true, and we're finding this in so many different ways. So
the way some people's hips are, like what is it called, the acetabulum or something, hip ball, and then in the socket, we each have born with a different angle that they're put on. Like, so some people can just naturally sit in a lotus pose and their knees will just hit the floor.
Yep.
Right. And then some of us won't. Now, obviously, you can improve
it's
that.
hard to know what's how much is environmental or genetic.
Yeah, let's not do something crazy where you end up popping your hip,
right,
your socket and stuff like that. But
and then the other thing too is like, when you're talking to young athletes like we are here today, like the idea that yes, you are flexible, but a lot of us don't spend time. It's a metaphor again, eh? Like the whole show we talk about going into the areas and doing those things that we don't normally do, right? So you go into the out of range, past your, what you think is 90 degrees on your shoulders, get past your 90 on your knees. Training in those harder to reach areas is very important. I would say even at a young age, because they're still not working out those areas, right? Because the reason, the philosophy behind that, and we'll talk more about this too, is that when you're playing a sport, you're going to go into those areas. Your knees are going to go past your toes. Your shoulders will dip well below your elbows will dip far below
whatever
your shoulders.
Your body's capable of doing, it will go there. In the pursuit of winning the game.
And here's the kicker: if you only strengthen in the limited range of motion, you're actually more at risk for injury because now you have a strong muscle that is going to pull a joint that hasn't been strengthened. Mm-hmm. So in other words, if I just keep working my quads by
if you were just doing leg extensions,
leg extensions, or if I just kept doing squats and not going past 90, just like to a seated squat my whole life, right? I'm strengthening my quad and my knee ligaments are not getting strengthened. So the first time in a game where my knees go over my toes, or if I'm in a basketball game, volleyball game, there's a real risk that super strong quad I've been creating becomes my worst enemy and it pulls my knee out of joint. This is why we're seeing record numbers of knees blown out. This is why we're seeing young kids blowing out all sorts of knees and shoulders way earlier.
You think there's
not only because the increased focus on sport and training, but it's also the wrong training.
So you think more kids are training nowadays than ever? Because
I think they are, and I think they're training like
I didn't do it. Like we did it. We started to do it when I was 16. Like just the high school we practiced at. I think we started to use the gym maybe only like a dozen times, which I thought was cool and like different. But
well, I mean, there's some posts we were just doing.
There's definitely high school kids training
on social media. No, on social media, man. Like I was just talking with parents. Like there's 12-year-old kids. The parents are throwing them in the gym, right? 12-year-old kids.
No, like what am I saying?
So
of course
because the focus on being great, the focus on
there's more,
and the lack of patience, right? Parents can't stand watching their kid. This came up in our parents and coaches alike are so impatient with a kid. Like, oh, they're so uncoordinated, or they'll never be this, or they'll never be that. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're 12. Like, it takes forever. Like anything else in life, right? Like, oh, this business I'm building is never going to succeed. It's been 6 months. Like, no, what are you talking about? It takes a long process here.
Right.
So they're all training and they're overtraining.
And they're just going after the big ones that they know, like the squat, the deadlift, this, and then they're not actually.
Or they're going to someone who's selling them something and hasn't really been through some of the things we've been through, and they'll just tell them what they've read off the other guy's Instagram page, and then it just becomes so you got to be very careful who you're listening to. Like even in our world, like I know of a couple guys who are saying the right thing, and I know a couple guys who are saying weird stuff. Yeah, and they have a crap ton of followers, and they have they're probably making a lot of money off their programs, but they're not. They're saying stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and this is the other issue, because that kid. When you're young, your body is so incredibly resilient in a way. Like you have this like gifted flexibility in a way. So they could actually end up absorbing some of these bad things that are going on, and they may not manifest until they're older.
Yes. And the other thing I love, my favorite is like, someone signs up for someone's jump program and they're like, oh my God, they gained 4 inches on their jump since last year. But that kid was like, 14 and now 15 or 15 to 16.
No,
like just sheer age, right? Like
correlation, growth spurt.
Correlation.
I grew 4 inches in 1 year when I was like 12 to 13.
Yeah, growth spurt, strength,
shin splints.
Like correlation and cause are two different things, and people don't know the difference. They're like, I've been doing this jump program and now I'm jumping 3 inches higher, but you're also started when you were 14 and now it's 16.
Yeah,
I'm hitting the ball so much harder. Thanks, coach. Such and such.
No.
I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm in fairness. Like there are good coaches who do that too, and but the thing is, like you said, the injury problem might still be there 3 years down the road, or they're teaching you some weird thing that doesn't work. And
now on the opposite end of that, it's kind of good to experience an injury. You don't want to go, 18 years without hurting, breaking something. Well, hopefully not breaking something, but like experiencing an injury is also really important.
Suffering matters, right? Like I think this is very important, mentally, physically. Well, everything we're talking about. Why are we so knowledgeable when it comes to what made us look for new ways of training and better ways of the injury?
The injury,
no, like all things that we talk about in the show.
Yeah,
the worst things that happen to us are often the best things that happen to us, and it's not in the middle of the bad thing. It looks awful, but it ends up serving you very well.
We didn't finish my injuries. You just cut me off. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, because you kept on rambling.
Yeah. No,
sorry,
I'll just say that.
Just list them. Yeah.
Just like quick little ones that weren't that bad, like messed up fingers from blocking, stuff like that.
Okay, I've had that.
Yeah. Shin splints, common stuff.
Yeah, I had the shin splints.
Low back stuff. I actually have a bit of scoliosis from playing hockey.
Okay.
Remember?
It's funny. I have low back. I've had the finger. I have the shin splints. It's very funny.
What else are the common ones?
Shoulders.
It's usually shoulder,
shoulder, ankles.
Thankfully, my knees have never been an issue.
Yeah,
except the quad tear when it is bad because it'll pull on the knee in an unbalanced way.
I had a little what do you call the kneecap, patella tendon and stuff. I had the exterior, like sort of like you said, the IT band. The exterior quad was too strong from jumping all these years. Yeah, and I was pulling my kneecap off center, so there was a little grinding happening. So I just did some simple corrective interior leg raises. That was funny. It was a simple little exercise, and it just brought my knee patella back into center. So it's interesting.
Yeah, see this the injury triggers pain, suffering, whatever, and then you go into this trial and error. You go into this experimental mode, and then that's where you gain all of this like knowledge from, right?
Yeah.
Like, as much as you can read and like whatever, like listen to someone on Instagram. Yeah, that's great. But go and do it. Go and
injure yourself. Good. This is good.
No.
Eric,
this is post-injury. They're already injured.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but go and try some stuff. And then,
if you're not injured, get injured. No, that goes okay, so parents, I mean, we've rambled on here, but the good thing is hopefully we've hit on some injury, and we want you to know that it's universal. And that everybody has injury, so that's one thing that can help kids. That if you're not injured, then you're not living. No, just kidding. It's
gonna happen. Once
injuries are going to happen.
You're always dealing with them now.
Yeah, and nobody's healthy. Like even in the club world, like a lot of people aren't healthy, but.
What are the ones that were most depressing for you? Like, or that took the longest time? Oh, we were kind of talking about them, but let's talk about those a little bit more.
Well,
like the ankle one.
So when the ankle happens, it's awful because I always watched people have ankle injuries, and I just thought, oh man, I've never had one.
That's the one I see the most.
Yeah,
especially when they land on someone else.
Yes, sucks. In volleyball, very common, and you're going to be out for a while when it happens. Yeah. Generally speaking, if it's a bad one. Mine was, that was upsetting because the weird thing about that one, and I think people can relate, is like I hadn't been on crutches much in my life, and I had no idea the crutch, what a pain, like opening a door is if you have a bag or like it was very weird, like getting in and out of cars. You just take these things for granted. So it's kind of interesting because it does teach you this new perspective on like, wow, I should be more grateful for when I'm healthy. And maybe is there anything I can do to like stop this from happening again? Like in some ways the injuries in my life, the back one, I didn't talk about the back one. I had a really bad back injury once where I couldn't play. I was moving a washer dryer up stairs while I was playing in a
slip a disc?
I must have slipped a disc. Yeah.
No, you don't have a hernia. You'd still feel that now, but
I slipped a disc for sure. I think.
We even know what that means? Slipped a disc.
Yeah, the disc slips just out from then the bones, the cushion between the spine. Your what do you call them? The things in your vertebrae. So then there's no cushioning, right? Because the discs are the cushioning between the vertebrae, and then if it slips out a little bit, it can also cause a nerve impingement.
Well, and that
nerves
could have herniated the disc where that's a rupture in part of the disc, but obviously that hasn't happened.
No,
because you would still feel that.
Yeah, okay. This was like a slip that was causing a nerve impingement, that's shooting pain around the back. Like I couldn't walk for a few days. Yeah, it was brutal. But again, it's funny because depending on who you go to and who you talk to, one chiropractor told me you're gonna have to keep coming back, lifetime of whatever, and I was like, okay, really? Yeah.
Really?
Of course, yeah. So then I went and I started.
That's the ugly stereotype. I didn't know that actually happened.
Well, it does happen. And so I went.
Is that still a stereotype?
I think it's still a stereotype of. I mean, isn't all like? Let's be honest. Like anything that is an industry is going to be very few people in that industry, and you'll meet them.
I know,
there are people who exist, but
not everyone, because I don't want to because I know.
Well, sorry, what I mean is the system is set up so that you could be a great person in an industry, but if the system that exists is rooted in like whoever writes your textbook, whoever creates your medical school, if they are industries, then they are going to make
But for the people out there who don't want to do the work themselves, like if they're not going to have some home routine where they're you don't have to do yoga, you can just like do your own stretching and this and foam roll. If they're not going to do that, and then they're going to keep getting this pain, and then they're just going to keep going to the chiro or the physio or whatever, and they're getting better that way. I mean, yeah, sure. That's one way to deal with it. No, but it's going to cost a lot of money.
No. But there's a way. Like, so the difference we're talking about here is
that's not the way I would do it, because
but
you're not learning anything.
But the difference is so you're learning. So you're doing something for sure that can help you in the short term. But there's a difference between treating symptoms and fixing the root cause, right?
Yeah.
And if you're lucky enough, you'll find a chiropractor or a doctor or a nurse or whatever. Or you'll find someone in the medical community who cares about root causes. But if you're not lucky, then you will meet someone. I think the majority of the system is set up to treat symptoms, and symptoms will keep reoccurring.
It makes sense
if you never deal with. Yeah, it's a business model, and it's but it doesn't even have to be that mean. Like, again, if you're educated in a certain box, you will think you're helping people, and you'll think you're doing a great thing, and you are, because you're being a good person.
Especially if they're not taking care of themselves, they're going to keep calling you. So it's like,
well, see, the good thing is, like, again, our society does not focus much on prevention. So the best chiropractor I ever worked with was one who told me that if she does her job, then I will never need to see her again. And she said, look, you're willing to do the work. I can tell you do the work. So she said, I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to show you how to fix. This was the leg nerve thing.
Yeah.
That was the most upsetting probably if I were to go anything, because I was like still young enough to jump, and I was always a high jumper. And like the weird thing was, I was sitting there, I couldn't jump, and I was looking at these people who never played, less athletic people than me, less people who never played volleyball.
Yeah.
And they were jumping higher than me, and I was like, man, this is killing me, right?
Yeah.
And then, but she said to me, like, look, I'm going to show you some things, and you probably never need to see me again. And sure enough, after a few visits,
some cool stuff.
It was network spinal analysis. It was very interesting. It's a new form. I think one of the biggest tricks to that whole thing is breathing on your front. So like if anybody has any back trouble, and your back can handle it, lying flat on your front somewhere and doing some deep breathing is interesting, because it forces the air back into the vertebrae. And I think that's all
yoga thing too.
Well, it's all it's like the
you get a massage.
It's like a decompression. It's like traction too, right? Like invert.
Yeah,
I used to have an inversion table I tried, but I didn't really have good results with that. So this thing though does the same. It sends air to sort of expand your spine and the vertebrae,
especially the low spine.
And speaking of discs, right? Yeah, low spine. And if there are things in there that need to be realigned, space will help them get lined in.
It was kind of like a meditative thing as well.
Yeah, I was passed out.
I
was like in a coma.
Every time you went to see her, right?
She went, it was weird. It was like weird witchcraft. I was like passed out. Like it was like, I don't know what happened.
Best 15 minutes. You don't know what happened. Whoa.
No, I woke up, my clothes were on backwards. No, but I was, I just
got all the money in your wallet.
There were literal times where I went in. I said, "Okay, I'm not going to fall asleep this time." And then she's like, "Okay, so you're okay. Now I'm going to turn over on your front." She pushes these pressure point areas in your back, and then you're breathing, and then out. It's crazy.
That's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
Wasn't she like pulling on your legs and stuff, like checking like, the range of motion?
It sounds weird when you say it like that, but she was doing like range of motion, and she was like just hitting spots. Like she could feel spots that were tight, and then
on your back.
On my back, my butt. I fell in love with this one. No, and then and then she would fold up to like this was to handle that, get that flossing going, I think too, and it was really, really fascinating. I only went to see her like I guess in total maybe 10 times, and even then, like I think I probably could have cut it a little shorter, and I haven't.
Naps were just too good though.
The naps and but she gave me some great flossing exercises that helped. So, but I think we got to get back to this, because I know these are fascinating to hear for people. But so when an injury happens for young players, I think that the biggest part is so here's the thing. Like, okay, personally, just for me living long enough, my thinking is like when an injury happens right away, my experience with a hospital is that they'll tell you. They can't see much, usually because they're swelling. So if it's an ankle, they might have a hard time, or knee, they might have a hard time telling you what's wrong because the blood, the inflammation.
Yeah, hospitals, they're not meant to deal with athletic injuries. They'll do the scan and stuff, but that's not where I would go at all.
I know. And so my Achilles, when my Achilles tendon just happened, everybody's like, oh, did you go to the doctor? And I was like, not really, because I know what they're just going to tell me, like surgery or drugs and manage the pain, stay off it. And a lot of it you already know too, right? Like, it's peace of mind for sure, though, right? That's what people love is they go to the doctor and the doctor will tell them peace of mind stuff, right? They just want someone in a position of authority to say, here's what's happening, just rest, here's some painkillers, and that's fine. In my case, because I'm old, because I've had injuries, because I knew that, the body, so the swelling that happened in my Achilles tendon, to me, I don't see that as swelling. I see that as nature's cast. Nature is saying, nature is sending blood to the area to heal it. And it's like, boom, here it is. Don't move this for a while. Yeah. And for a couple of days, I didn't. But if I went the air cast route, because at my age, they probably wouldn't say surgery. Although if you're still active in sports, they might say, let's do surgery. So I know someone who had the exact same injury at me, almost at the exact same time, who was 24 years younger than me, 25 years younger than me, okay? She went the air cast route, and she looked at me 2 weeks after and was like, what the hell? Because I was walking around, and I was getting my range of motion back. So the atrophy that she was going to experience, this lack of mobility, lack of flexibility in her Achilles tendon will require six months of physio.
I still can't believe this.
Right?
They
so in my well, I mean that's what
I've never air casted anything.
So here's the thing. So the solutions today are surgery, or if
and
not,
surgery is even more ridiculous.
If not, then right away to air cast.
I don't know. Like I don't know if an injury gets at some point it's so bad. Like does a torn ACL require surgery? Like fully torn? Is that a... See, I don't even know if these terms are proper.
Well, I mean, the tricky part is I think some things align, but so what I did in my case...
With that, you would, because like you need to reattach the thing.
So in my case too, right? So my Achilles tendon was torn, so...
Not fully, though.
Not fully. I don't think it was pretty bad. Like there's a certain test you can do to check how bad. And mine didn't have a
You're still able to lift your heel.
But I did elevate my heel. So I did a lot of research from... So what my theory is, like I can go to my local doctor, I could go to my local hospital. What are the odds that I'm living within proximity of one of the best Achilles tendon injury people in the world, versus I can go online, do some due diligence, find the person who is the authority on Achilles tendons and see what they say about it. And sure enough, the best thing that I found was the heel wedge. So I put a heel wedge in to make sure that my Achilles could now reattach successfully. Even if it's partial or full, I need that elevation of the heel. That made good sense to me. Like, okay, I can't just leave my Achilles down here flat and then hope that it just grows up, because that'll create an elongation, a permanent elongation. You don't want it to heal long. Yes. You want to make sure it maintains springiness. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I put a heel wedge in, kept my heel elevated. And then I got the beauty of me walking as early as possible is that the flexibility is there, the natural movements there, the blood rushing. If it gets a little sore is there.
Moving it, blood's going in and out.
Because the biggest thing I read was like if you put it in an air cast, which everybody says to do, then you are just
locking it down. And locking down movement and blood flow.
Well, I had it in an air cast too. That's the other thing too. So I did put it in an air cast for 2 days.
You got the weird imbalance.
Well, I looked at my ankle after 2 days in the air cast and it looked dead. And I'm like, how can blood restriction to an area ever be good, right? How can blood restriction to an injury ever be good? If blood is the essence of what heals injuries, this is why we scab, this is why blood rushes to, this is why we bruise, right? Because the blood is rushing to heal an area that's injured. So I'm like, how can blood restriction of an air cast ever help healing? And it can't. And how can movement be bad for blood flow? It can't. So I got moving as early as possible. And sure enough, after 2 or 3 weeks, some people wouldn't even know I had the injury.
You wore that cast for not even a week?
Like 2 days. Like after a day, first day, I was like, this feels wrong. This feels like, and I'm setting myself up for months of physio, not from the injury, but from the air cast. Yeah. Like, that's what I mean about the industry, is where your rehab is because of what you had done. Like, so if I had this, like, I learned this from my shoulder.
Right.
I was in rehab for like a year from when they went in there. Whereas if I was doing yoga and some range of motion stuff that was safer, healthier, I probably never had to go in there, right? I don't know, because like I said, remember they even said themselves the cartilage wasn't badly attached. So I do, not to, like, we don't want to, like, I know people listening and they're fully in favor of the medical establishment, and that's fine, that's okay. But just understand that they're going to tell you things that are treating symptoms. They're going to tell you to take a drug, cover up the pain, which is the worst thing for an injury because you might make it worse. So like for years after my shoulder surgery, I would pop an Advil before I played volleyball. That's just how I played for about 20 years. Okay. Awful for my body.
I forgot. I have another injury we didn't talk about, and it's the worst one. But
this show topic's totally different.
yeah. But I think if you have a good, like when I had that quad tear in varsity with an athletic therapist team, the only good thing, the best thing that team, what it did for my injury was it got me back to that range. It got me back to performing really quickly. Kept my range of motion, and it definitely minimized the scar tissue to like as if I was never injured at all. So that's
huge.
Yeah, but also you healed. So the only reason I'm saying is because you healed yourself on your own. You just knew what to do, right? And we don't know we don't know what the quantity of scar tissue is, or the quantity of, say, loss of range of motion. Like obviously your range of motion isn't the same right now. You haven't had enough time to put in the work to get it back. Now
it's there.
Yeah, it's there, and it's likely gonna go right back to where it was, or like 99.5%. I don't know, like, because sorry, it's just,
no, go ahead.
I forgot the other injury I had was the worst one I've had is where I hyperextended my elbow.
Right.
This is similar to yours in a way in that I ended up landing upside down. Someone took my legs out from under me. It's a freak accident. Landed on my arm, and then it hyperextended the way it's not supposed to. Blasted all the tendons. It was gnarly. Like I wanted to puke. It was so painful. Oof. And now I went and saw a physiotherapist, like, I'd say like a week after, as soon as I could get a booking, and then cost me like $120. And she like just an evaluation, kind of told me what to do and stuff. And then I didn't go back because
you knew the answers. She told you, right?
Well, and I just
painkiller, rest.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna." But she had to show me some. They had to show me some stuff to like. We're gonna do this and this, and so some exercises. But I was like, I already know enough. I've been through enough injuries. I know enough about whatever, and I just kind of like dealt with it on my own. And even then, I actually didn't take the best care of it. Like I actually I rested it a lot. I sat down and like I just played a whole lot of video games. And
did they tell you to demobilize or immobilize it?
Well. No, they didn't tell me. They just said, like, obviously don't do anything that's painful.
Right, but they didn't try to wrap it up or lock it in a air cast or anything.
No. Well, I'm pretty sure because I told them I'm not going to do that. And so that was already an option off the table.
But they would have. They probably would have immobilized it.
Maybe. I think
immobilization is really weird.
They never mentioned a cast or anything like that.
Okay.
But I went back to work quickly. Right. And I was already using it, lifting it up with like things above my arm, and it hurt, but it wasn't like, it was like low grade pain.
Yeah. And you were smart. You weren't stupid. Like some people are stupid with injuries and they go do crazy stuff. Right.
Yeah. I wasn't doing that. And then every day I had like my own little routine. I was like warming it up in a bath, and I was checking range of motion, because that's what I was worried about. I was worried about range of motion and like scar tissue. And so I was like addressing that in whatever little ways I could. And then finally, as it was getting better, like it took months. It was that bad. It was, but then like I felt like, I was like, oh no, I've lost like 2% range of motion. Here I am like getting depressed in my mind. I'm like, I'm never going to hit the same. But now like it's been 2 years now, and now it's like,
geez, was that 2 years ago?
Something like that.
Holy
I know.
Smokes.
It's crazy. But now it's back to almost the way it was. And like, and I've been playing volleyball, and like it feels fine, and like I'm doing stuff and it doesn't hurt at all.
Right.
It was hurting that one season when I was blocking, and I would block a ball. It would like shake my elbow, but like hitting a ball in there, now it doesn't hurt at all. And I'm just like, so my whole point of this long-winded thing is like, say I had dropped the $1,500 or whatever, and I would have had a 1% better recovery than what I just did on my own.
Maybe
maybe
not.
Like my arm works just as fine as it was, or like I think it does. Maybe I don't know. Again, maybe 1-2% better had I have stayed with this physiotherapist.
Well,
That's my rant.
But I learned in my shoulder issue, and
because I don't want to tell people not to.
Yeah,
you know
no, we're not. Yeah, we're not doctors, and I don't. I mean, not that I'll be honest with you. I think that term "I'm not a doctor" is interesting because, again, the medical establishment. So when I taught philosophy and taught sociology for a lot of years, and you study the medical establishment. I wrote a lot about the medical health industry a little bit in my university years, and if something's created with profit in mind, I mean, here's the thing. So you got two parties. There's you, the athlete, and there's the trainer or the physiotherapist or whatever you want to call it.
One person's job is dependent.
One of them is dependent on you keep coming back for as long as possible to help pay their bills and feed their family, which is fine. Mm-hmm. The other one's goal is to stop the training as soon as possible, stop the recovery and get on with it. Make sure they're recovered faster. Mm-hmm. I think, you will meet the trainers who, like I said, like the chiropractor too, and you want your trainer, your chiropractor, anybody to say to you, my goal is to get you out of here as fast as possible and to teach you to never come back again.
That's the benefit of an AT on a sports team, because their pay is based on how quickly they can get that athlete back.
That's the difference. Yes, that's why pro athletes get out there faster than the average person. And everybody's like, how come they get the better treatment? Well, because they're that person. Great point. They're not. Yeah. They're not feeding their family. They're not earning more for having,
The less injured their team is, the more secure they are in their position.
Exactly. And getting them back faster. And then preventative stuff is part of is built into those goals. So, So like taking it back to kids out there. So the doctor right away question, sometimes you have to be careful with that because they might be thinking that, well, one, they're going to give you the obvious answers of painkillers, rest. We can't really see much right now. We'll have to assess later on. But obviously for people out there, go see your doctor, especially if it's a terrifying injury, right? If it's a very big, cause you don't know other things may have happened. We were talking about stuff like our definitions of big injuries, luckily haven't been like, some femur issue. I think
you can say if you really have no idea what's going on and you don't even know, have an idea of where to begin to start therapy, then you obviously need to start somewhere. And so if for local physicians or whoever, for sure, start there, somewhere.
And we will add so that's a great point. Yeah. If you don't know, I think, age helps. We're not 12 years old anymore. But I think mobility early is one piece of advice we do if you can tolerate it. So find out, and this is where you have to go in there a little bit as an athlete, as a young athlete, or as a parent. Have your child don't force them to do things, but you have to let them know, listen, we got to start moving this injury as fast as possible, because in mobility means blood flow. And blood flow is what heals everything. Okay. Blood flow has all of the things that heal cuts, they heal injuries. If you don't have good blood flow in the area, you have to make sure nice and early do that, because that'll make your recovery so much faster. Yeah. And those final few, you won't have to spend 6 months gaining back flexibility and removing scar tissue, because scar tissue forms when the blood is not moving very well. So it pools in it. So you want I highly recommend, no matter what the injury is, that the athlete get it mobile soon,
because you don't want to be locked down and immobile. No one wants that, unless you don't want that. So
it also adds to the depression, right?
Yes, big time.
For me, when my Achilles happened, I was like, oh God, I can't drive for months. I can't do anything. I can't. And then once I was like, no, you know what, I'm gonna take this off after a couple of days, and I was like, I got my life back. I was able to do a lot of things. Couldn't play sports, couldn't work out, but I could move around. I could walk. I could drive. And everybody was telling me, a lot of people who had the injury said, "Oh no, you can't do that. You got to get it in an air cast. You got to do this." And I was like, "Listen, I'm not going to deal with the depression, because that's the part that we're going into next. Right? The mental anguish of an injury, especially for an athlete or someone who's super active, is the worst part, right? Because not only do you have this physical thing now.
I still can't believe this cast thing. It's just so, because not having it on every day, you get to feel that little bit of improvement.
Yeah, and I knew when it was ready to go to the next step. Yeah, right. I knew, okay, I can start to do some stuff here. And I was literally getting feedback, as you said, every day, right?
Yeah. Cast on is it's not only locking down the movement, it's locking down the feedback you're getting. Yeah, totally. It's like you're just going to take it off one day and be like, well, I hope it's better, and then go and do something and you blast it out again.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the problem with painkillers. If it's not like dire, like if it just hurts, right? If it just hurts and people just say, take a painkiller. And then every time you take a painkiller, you're numbing your ability to feel it. Right? Like me taking, those painkillers before I play, like taking Advil before I played, was making my shoulder worse, right? Nature's pain is, so this, to use that metaphor again of the show, right? Pain is nature's way of telling us what we need to change or stop, right?
Yeah,
in life too, right? Like people who are doing bad things or doing bad paths, they experience a lot of pain, and that's the universe saying, hey, maybe you should switch this up. Right? You know how you keep getting kicked out of volleyball tournaments for screaming at little kids? You should probably that pain and embarrassment is supposed to be like, so if and shoulder pain, for instance,
comparison, I like that.
Yeah, shoulder pain is like, hey, that's your nature's way of saying what you're doing here is not working, or you're doing it wrong.
Check your biomechanics here.
But if you take a painkiller, if you numb it, then you're basically saying, shut up, nature.
Yeah.
Shut up, lesson.
I'm just going to keep doing this.
Yeah. It's like that pain is like, it's funny. Like we keep going back to the theme of pain in the show, like how good it is for us.
Good point. My volleyball swing is now better. And the major jump, it happened when I was 29, when I injured it so bad that I had to rethink of how I was hitting the ball. First, I had to get it better. I did the best, that towel stretch.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So it feels so good.
I need to do that more. It was because, freeing up my front delts and like pec and whatever. I think I was just too
developed. Opens your chest.
Like getting my shoulder back there. But then, and then coming back, I was like, okay, I knew what made it bad. So then I was like, okay, I got to hit this way. And then just constantly reminding myself, got to hit this way, got to hit this way. And so
our whole society has a messed up relationship with pain and suffering, right? Like our whole society thinks that you should spend your life avoiding pain, when really, and yet our same culture has the same
learning moments.
Yeah, our same culture has the same belief that only failure makes you learn. So so we spend our whole time trying to avoid failure and pain on one hand, and yet we acknowledge that those are the moments that teach us the most.
Right.
So which is it, right? So we protect our kids and we protect ourselves from hard situations, and then you wonder why when something happens we can't deal with it, or they can't deal with it. So it's an interesting relationship with pain I think we have, and it sort of shows itself in all aspects of our society, including our health model, how we deal with injuries and how we see them as the end of the world. Not because look at you and me talking like have we our injuries have literally made us like really good. And like when somebody has an injury, I know everybody does this, but we've literally had it and we've fixed it, and with nothing else but ourselves. And so we know what we're doing wrong all the time, to the point where I'm predicting my injuries now. It's fun. It's like a game.
Yeah. Like this last one was the worst. And now I almost feel like I can kind of deal with anything at this point. I've dealt with a back thing, and like back ones are chronic, like everyone.
Friend of ours is having back issues. Trenton is having.
Is he?
Yeah. Debilitating, and he's upset. He's depressed, and it's the worst because it takes out everything.
Yeah. You feeling it every day? It is. That's a good point, because it is like being able to deal with it. And the thing is, I know the accountability is on myself, because I know I've dealt with it in the past. So if it's coming up again, it's basically the only depressing thing now is that I only have myself to blame. I'm just
that's it, right? Like, so this is what I want to talk to.
So that's the reason behind the whole pill thing, is that that's the way out. Whereas instead it's like, oh, this is happening again. I'm the only one to blame. This sucks. It's my own fault.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, the pill's easier to take than do the work. Right? That's what my chiro said to me. She said, you do the work. So I know you're probably not going to be back.
Dude, here. I did yoga every freaking morning this last week. I'm finally getting on a good tear, and it's not easy. I'm waking up at like 5:30 in the morning, and then I'm like stretching, and like, how stiff you are in the morning, right? Mm-hmm, so I'm like, and it's just like but like 20 minutes of it, and then I'll or 30, whatever, I feel better.
Yep.
And then going for a run, like now on my runs, it takes like 2-3 kilometers just to like break stride and feel good. That's when I'm not, but if I stretch before, I can get into that much quicker. And I'm like, and again, so that was back with the heavyweight squatting and stuff. Yeah, I love that stuff, but the mobility, again, for me, where I am right now, the stretching is what I really got to focus. And I know it's because it's also the harder thing to do.
Yeah.
It's way harder.
We had that interesting discussion too, where we were like, do you think stretching is like a rubber band? Like in some weird way, the more you stretch, the more you need to maintain it. Because if you stretch and then stop, does your body collapse back like a rubber band releasing into more tension? Or do you think
I don't
you just
know
feel
enough
it
about
more?
that.
It makes sense to me though. Like if you stretch your body for like a stint, like suppose you
Are you saying, are you losing the elasticity?
well, what I mean is like, so let's suppose you get into a really good stretching routine, right, for a regular, consistent basis, and then you stop for 3 weeks. Your body will definitely feel the difference more than someone who never stretched.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What I'm also getting at too, like, is there something about, is it worse for you? Because now so picture the elastic band stretching, okay? And then because you're the one stretching it every day, I guess, well, the elastic band does lose elasticity over time.
Yeah, but I don't
right?
think I don't think we can compare an elastic band as one for one as a muscle group, because a muscle is much more complicated than an elastic band.
Mm-hmm.
There's way more going on there. So
yeah, but not really.
Yeah, no,
fibers that create
but like
strength
your muscle is a bunch of cells, and then they all contract, right? And then what the parts that we're stretching is the sheath, the connective tissue that wraps them and then attaches them to the bone. So those, I'm assuming those connective tissues stretch to some degree, and we can elongate the muscle cells. But like the way a muscle contracts, it's not based on elasticity, it's based on contraction, which each cell like shortens.
What I mean is you're lengthening the muscles through stretching.
Yeah.
And then if you stop, do they snap back? Like everything else in nature? Like the universe?
Well, they go to a balance point
itself.
Because around each joint we have the agonist and antagonist muscles, so it's going to go to that neutral
Before you
position.
answer this, I need you to understand that the universe itself is collapsing.
You know what? We should really get a kinesiologist or someone.
No, but it's bigger than a kinesiologist. What I'm saying to you is that keep in mind that the universe itself is expanding.
Yes.
And will collapse.
It should start.
So
to
everything in
at some
nature
point.
that
When's
stretches,
everything
in nature. No, don't change the subject now.
Oh,
everything that stretches.
Yeah.
Don't forget, I am your guru. Episode 1, callback. No, anyway, I
don't know. Yes,
but the key is there that what you said about, so athletes, you can take the pill to get rid of pain, or you can do the work of not preventative, right? The preventative act of training. And this is the number one thing about an injury is like, don't just get better, don't feel better from an injury and go back to playing without doing some improvements in behavior around the joint or around that injury or around your whole body. Because especially when it comes to ligaments, right? People think that, you're better off breaking a bone than spraining something. The ligaments, bones grow back stronger. Ligaments have permanent damage, so you really need to do good work around ligament stuff. So my ankle stuff, when I remember when my ankle injury happened, it was the first one I had, and everybody told me, I was 35, I think, and they're like, "Oh, it'll never come back. It'll never come back."
Why would people say that?
Because it never. It's because they never.
Oh, I really wanted to swear there. Holy moly!
Misery loves company.
Yeah, right? I would be like. No,
there were people who were telling me just it'll never come back.
Holy
crap. Never come back because they didn't do the work.
I can't stand that.
Yeah, but it's okay. But for me, luckily, I'm the right mindset, and when people tell me that stuff, I'm like, watch. And one simple little trick. So I'm assuming we have a lot of people listening who've had ankle injuries or knee or joint like that are below their hips. So one thing that I did that really helped, and I literally read this in Men's Health magazine about every morning.
That's where you get your information.
That's where I get all my information. By the way, did you know that?
That sounds back.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Oh, God. But anyway, so one little tip that a physiotherapist wrote about was the balance. So when you're brushing your teeth every morning, right? Ankle recovery, stand on the injured ankle. Because, brushing throws you off balance a little bit. And then so I banged my head off that sink. No. So many times. No. But just brushing your teeth, and then the stabilizer muscles that never get worked in that ankle will stabilize. And I remember I was feeling like little pains in there. I'm like, wow, I'm feeling weird things bouncing.
And things tiring out real quick.
And then at the gym, I would do a thing where I would, ankle brace on a weight stack, on my non-injured ankle, and I would stand there and pull and move the weight stack around with my healthy ankle, and
like a cable thing.
Like a cable, yeah, a cable machine.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. And then my right foot, which was injured, my right ankle was doing the stabilizing stuff.
Oh, I see.
And I'd do it at the end of my leg workouts.
Yeah.
And so I was like dripping with sweat because all of those stabilizers were working like crazy. As I was doing different pull away exercises with my, and it was like crazy. And I'm nobody in the gym's doing that exercise, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, and people are looking at me like I'm crazy. But I know that I'm really working out those little stabilizer muscles. So when my ankle goes back to play, I'm not going to roll it again. And I think soccer is the reason why I didn't have so many ankle rolls, because I was doing all those other different exercises.
What are the exercises that everyone else in the gym is doing?
They're doing the ones, the big muscles.
Yeah, but they're doing the ones because, again, we're worried about, we want instant results. So
or vanity muscle.
Yeah, but also, so like this
guys not working out their legs.
Right. This whole muscle or injury prevention stuff is that people want instant. So they think, do the squats, do the deads, this will give me the higher vertical, whatever. And like,
we have a phone call. Just ignore it.
Okay, well, it's going to go off for a while, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I thought we turned it off.
Nobody can hear it.
Okay. So the mental challenge will be to do more than those. It's going to be to do more than just the squat stuff. It's going to be like, because you're going to injury prevention stuff. It's not glorious, and you're not going to feel the benefit of it, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. Like injury, you will.
You'll feel the benefit.
I think you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not going to
show them off at the beach.
Yeah, you're not doing these glory exercises, right? You're doing this weird stuff that Zoo was talking about, right? Where you're doing like this off balance stuff, but that stuff's going to pay off, right? Or you're doing yoga, right? That's not a very glorious thing, but
well, it's a universal law, right? Like there's the people who do
the universe is collapsing.
Well, the people do the stuff for show,
yeah,
right? And there's the hard work that nobody sees,
right?
That goes into success, and it's not glamorous, and it's the opposite of what we praise and hail.
Yeah,
like, we praise and we glorify all the public. Part of what it is like we see the finished product of success in anything. And we don't see what went into it. So, and then we try to replicate it from the top down. So we try to replicate success from what we see on the surface.
Yeah,
we're going to copy what that person's doing, but we don't see what they're doing when no one's watching.
Right.
We don't see that, and that's the same with rehab and preventative stuff. So if you're someone doing those exercises that you see everyone doing somewhere, that is not the key to athletic success and injury prevention.
But at the same time, if someone's doing those and they're doing them like on schedule all the time, that's the fact that you're in the gym and doing that.
Yeah, you
that's
need to
amazing.
do them. Yeah, you need to do them. But
like
if you just do them, then like sort of what I was talking about before, where if you're not going to those other areas and doing these stabilizer things, then you might blow out your knee and you might blow out your shoulder.
And especially because this is about a sport, it's about volleyball. Like these things aren't necessarily, they're not going to help your range of motion. They may or may not. Well, probably not. Like, because even when you're doing like a deep squat or whatever, like, what's his name? Knees over toes guy. He's getting into those crazy split squats where his knees are going way beyond. Like I tried a bunch of these exercises, and they're like, those are the ones that paid off the most, where you're really getting in this crazy range of motion. Right?
Exactly. Because he knows that he's gone back to old world thinking.
Yeah.
That if you are not, again, it's a metaphor.
And he had significant pain.
He had knee problems. Yeah. 8 times his knees blew out, and he was told he'd never be able to play basketball. But the point is that if you don't go into those areas that you're vulnerable and you don't deal with them, then it's gonna cause a blowout later on. So
that's simple.
So that's the preventative stuff. Now, what about
tangents? So many tangents.
Well, it's all related though, and hopefully, I think one cool thing about this is because we are talking openly about it. I think a lot of athletes will feel what we're feeling or understand what we're talking about, and cool. It's also cool because it's preparing them for a lifetime of injuries, repair. And not just repair, don't wait for it to get better, but be active in your recovery. Right?
Yeah.
Take some ownership in your recovery, do some research. One thing, so like, I think honestly, like I want to get into the mental side of it, because I think that's what parents are wondering too. Like, what can I do for my child who is injured today and is distraught, right? Young player, volleyball's their life. I think that the one really thing is it's important to stay mentally up, right? And now that's easier said than done. I think that there's so humans are sort of made, I think we're hardwired, generally speaking, especially if they're athletes, to improve, right? Like we need to be improving all the time. So the temptation is to sit around. I can't move much. I can't play. I'm going to sit on the sofa, or I'm going to do whatever for several months, or I'm just going to do my schoolwork. Are there other things that you can do that you can improve? Can you watch videos on mental training? Can you, like good mental training, I mean, can you read a book about how to improve yourself in other ways, you know what I mean, in life? I think that's a huge part of what's missing for injured athletes is they're not improving themselves in other ways. They forget that sports can be mental. And again, we know there's a lot of crap mental training books, but there are some good things about life philosophies that you can learn. There's a lot of good videos.
I like that. Yeah.
Can they watch our episodes? Right.
Yeah. You can, it's an opportunity to where life has told you, hey, this is not happening for the next X amount of time, which is your sport. But now just like go explore some other stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing.
I think that's the key. Like, honestly, I think because what's really missing from an injured athlete's life is the feeling of contributing, improving, getting better. Everybody's getting better, especially in young ages, right? They're getting better and I'm not.
Yeah.
Or I'm missing out on the fun. So it's a small thing, but it is a good way to psychologically get up. Because if you picture yourself seeing a video or watching or reading a book or something, that or watching an episode of something like, and you're like, wow, I learned something today, or I improved myself here, right? So improvement physically and having fun,
especially in the case. So let's take the ankle blowout as an example. The first 3 weeks, you're probably not doing anything on it. This is a bad ankle blowout. Maybe even 4 weeks. It can be, those ones that go black and they go halfway up your leg.
Yep.
So 3-4 weeks, you want to move around on it, but you just can't. You literally can't for this. You can hobble around, but you're not going to be doing any physio and stuff like that. So in this moment, like you're kind of, you're a little sedentary, or, you're going to be elevating it, this, that, icing. So get into some books or get into some cool, get into our show, or get into, like life is telling you, and you can either choose to just wallow in it and like, see, I'm not a good example because when this happened to me, I just like went to work and like played video games and then I like did my own like little rehab on it, but that was my own way of like coping with it.
Well, escape is a thing.
It was,
right?
That's what it was.
Healthy ways to escape and not so healthy ways to escape.
The thing is, I wasn't exactly I was depressed for sure. Cause like I had to cancel everything. Like I had to get a sub for the season. I'm no longer, and I'm not physical. I wasn't even working on my legs. Right. Yeah. So like, don't do what I did. It wasn't good. I came back from it, but like, it's not ideal.
Well, like for me too, like, so right now, like I'm at risk, like, if I come back from this Achilles injury, so I'm not going to do it unless I'm training really well. So that's cool. It's going to make me in better shape, right? So you'll notice it on camera, folks. If you watch the podcast over the next few weeks, I'm going to shrink and wither away into,
Or we're just going to zoom out.
Going to be or we could zoom out. We could fog. We could just blur the screen as I get bigger and bigger. No, but so, I'm like, what happens to me if I get injured again? Like, what happens if I have the next injury? I'm like at the stage where like, am I done playing volleyball here, or do I pack it in and just become a podcast host, a smart ass podcast? No, but
I think this last one you had was a good one, like a good one. And
this is the
first. You got to take it seriously, or you're going to run this risk.
Warning shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So nature's way. Thank you, nature. Yeah, for sure. So mentally, like when this happened, it's kind of funny though, because I was talking with another friend of mine who's a younger player, and she said the same thing. Like I said, when the injury happened, I instantly got a little excited about the rehab and the physio, because that nature I have where, proving people wrong, like, that whole thing where I see it as a challenge. I see the challenge in it. If you can ever get to that point, athletes, where you're just like, this is a challenge, just like beating a team or just like improving.
Yeah,
myself.
true.
Like I got a little, and she said the same thing. She was the same. She said, I know exactly what you mean. It was Taylor. And she said that her knee, she had a really bad knee injury. And she said she had the same feeling when the knee.
Now, is that because you don't have a choice? I mean, you do have a choice, but like,
yeah, for sure.
I think of certain people in their mind, they know that they're now locked in to commit to like treating this, whereas some people will just like avoid it and then go to the physio route because that's like that's delegating that responsibility to someone else.
Yeah.
But you guys,
self accountability.
Yeah, you guys know that like the choice is already made. The injury happens, the choice is made. I'm going to be taking care of this, and
I think she went to see people more than I did, like training, but she was excited about that process.
Yeah,
because I think what it is it's that competitive notion where you're like, okay, this is just like another team. Or someone trying to take my spot on a team. Yeah. So this is just, I'm going to do this. And then, the feeling that you'll get from overcoming, it's interesting.
I loved working with the athletic therapist. Not going to lie. Again, these were not.
Interesting, eh?
Like, it was.
The process of coming back is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that's easier.
You almost come back stronger in certain injuries as well.
Well, we just said that off the top. You come back stronger mentally. You come back stronger physically.
Come back with better technique.
Yeah. As long as you see, so that's the thing too, right? So if a young athlete gets injured, don't forget to see it as an opportunity to make your body stronger, learn something about your body. Like you said earlier, like these are not catastrophes. We think they are. Yeah. But
the body's designed to deal with injuries. It's literally designed to. Yeah, it hurts and you're out for a little bit, but
and so are our minds, right? Our minds are designed. Like, yes, it's awful and it's suffering, but there's nothing. Sometimes it's very useful to suffer. Like we talk about Buddhism a lot in the show, right? And the existence is suffering mantra is so fascinating because the quicker you wrap your head around the life that existence is suffering. I used to teach this all the time when I was teaching philosophy, but until you go through stuff, you don't really realize what it means. It means start expecting bad things to happen, and then you'll realize that you'll be super happy when good things happen.
And
versus someone who expects life to be rainbows and peaches, and then when poop hits the fan, they're like devastated. The sooner you wrap your head around that, we talked about this before. It sounds so bleak, but life is, the older you get, the more sad and depressing you get. A lot of bad things happen, and you're like, why am I? And every day you wake up in the morning and go, oh God, no, this might happen today, or this is happening today, or oh, this.
There's just no way our 12-year-old selves could handle the burden of our adult reality. You know what I mean? Because we got here slowly over time. But also the thing about these tough things and the benefit, the mental benefit of doing tough things, whether it's exercise or cold showers or stretching or making yourself run, like. Yeah. It's that you are telling yourself to do that.
Putting yourself
under you're stress. The one who's initiating the suffering. instead of it just happening to you and then you have to deal with it and be sad and stuff. It's like
no, but that's literally what exercise is.
Exactly.
It's putting the body in stress.
And that's what you were saying. So when shitty times when bad times happen, suffering happen, you're going to be way more prepared for it if you've been putting yourself in a bad moments.
Yes.
And
that's why yoga is so universal, right? Like yoga is so interesting because what is yoga telling you? So let's get our body in this really uncomfortable position. Yeah. Now I want you to relax while you're in this position, and I want you to breathe while you're in this position.
Yeah.
So when life puts you in really uncomfortable positions, you are literally training your brain to breathe in tough situations and relax. And then those situations.
Who created yoga?
I did.
Imagine a really smart.
It started out as a school project, and I turned it into a business. So that's why going into stress, why exercise, right? Weight training is putting yourself into stress and breathing while you're putting yourself through these hard things, right? So it's a very fascinating metaphor that we don't really pick up on when tough stuff happens in life. It's almost like a form of exercise.
Lululemon made money off yoga.
For sure. They're also a sponsor.
Yeah.
Right?
They
Porsche,
are.
Lululemon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sponsoring.
Thanks for sending us the free Porsches and Lululemons.
Can we get trouble for saying that?
No.
Oh.
We're advertising for them to all our...
Oh, yeah.
To every...
But we don't actually get
listener,
Porsches and Lululemons.
No.
So maybe it'll be
how do you know? Maybe we do. How do they know?
You're keeping all that?
I'm keeping this. Yeah, I'm keeping it on. Imagine that. I show up in Lululemon. Anyway. People are going to think we don't drive nice cars. We drive nice cars. Anyway, so it's depressing, but you can progress in other ways, and that's important. Now, what about this one?
You end up forgetting it. Like
you end up forgetting what?
I don't know. You end up forgetting the injury. Like this thing, like it was when I first got back into volleyball after my hyperextended elbow, terrifying injury. Yeah, for sure. I was hesitant on a few. It happened hitting a pipe ball. I was pretty hesitant landing on someone again. Mm-hmm. And then eventually got to the point where I'm back to normal.
That's a good point.
I don't even think about it. And I think there's like a natural mechanism in like whether it's intense mental or like psychological pain or physical pain, our body and mind will hold it in short-term memory, but it doesn't want you to be dwelling on it because that's going to restrict you from
moving on.
Yeah, moving on, right? And so like even really emotionally awful times in my life, it's funny, I remember it, but I don't remember the pain. You know what I mean? Because like I don't want to relive that.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it's good to go back, but yeah.
Well, I do think it is good to go back, and I think it's difficult, and you actually have to put work to.
Sometimes it can make you happier.
Yeah.
I try to, so like I like that point though, that the injuries do move on and people forget that. Like there are people who say, oh yeah, your Achilles, and I go, oh yeah, I've already forgotten about it because I'm walking around normally now, right? And but I do it's important to hold on to it a little bit. I know what you're saying too.
Yeah.
So for young athletes, you will forget about it, but maybe it's once in a while you should remember it because it'll inform your training, and you just an awareness that it could happen again if you don't fix things. Like that's a good reminder for all of us in every aspect of our lives. That thing that you hated could happen again if you don't take care of stuff or change or whatever, right? So the one thing I want to talk about too is now this varies, I think, for athletes. So watching the team play or watching volleyball when you can't play, it varies.
Oh, right.
Some players will enjoy it, even like watching their team, or they'll enjoy watching it. Some players can't stand to watch. I think coaches and parents need to remember like how much that kid loves the sport. My personal opinion is even if you love it, you should probably go watch it because two things will happen. One, it'll make
even if you don't like it.
Even if you don't like it, even if you don't think you can stand watching it.
No, why? Why can they not stand it? Because they're not playing.
It's torture. Yeah, like it's like when I'm injured, it's tough for me to watch volleyball sometimes. Like of my friends, like I wouldn't go.
I think you should watch it even if that's happening.
Yes,
because especially if this is a team that you're serious about, because it's also that if your team loses, you want to lose with them still.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. So I'm also talking about like watching it on TV or something.
Yeah, okay.
Because but for your team, it's a different. Yeah, you're right. I think you should be part of a team, especially if you get along with the players on the team.
Yeah.
There's something about your healing where you'll still feel like that fun experience of being a part of the team. So I think that you should definitely go and watch for that reason. And then you should also go and watch because if it hurts you to watch volleyball when you can't play, it will probably help you get more motivated to take the steps to come back, right? Like that's a good point.
I think how could that not hurt in a way to like watch the sport while injured? Like,
well, we've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah, I know, but it is. That's the good kind of. That's the good. Yeah, you're right. I think so. That would trigger you to be motivated to get on it and take care of it.
Yeah. So young athletes, if you're telling your mom or if you're a parent listening and your child doesn't want to go watch volleyball, I mean, one, they should go, like Eric said, supporting your team is very important.
Yeah.
Assuming there's nothing funky on the team or like people you can't stand or there's bullying.
Yeah.
But even then, there might be some interesting things there towards healing the relationship if you're there as an injured player still watching them play.
Just laugh at the people who say, oh, it's never gonna
it's never gonna come back.
Oh man, tell them to be like, oh yeah, like watch this. Like,
exactly. So but going to watch is good, I think, for not feeling isolated too, because I think when we get injured we all want to sit in the darkness and feel miserable for ourselves. So the sooner we can get moving, not only for the injury, but also for our emotional state, get out there, interact with people, it'll keep your spirits up.
And if it was like in the case of Pete landing, like being under me, like I think I was mad at him for like a few minutes, but like not mad.
I don't think you were mad at him.
No, I was like, well, I was just mad at the situation. Yeah. I'm like, what the heck was he doing?
You were blaming the closest living thing.
I was like, what the?
Like cats.
Yeah. Man, I swear a bunch when I get injured like that, like when it's excruciatingly painful, I was just like,
don't swear on the show.
Yeah, I'm not going to. But
yes.
But then I was like, I don't even think I was mad at Pete. I was mad at the situation.
Yeah. And you blame for like something. Like we do look around for people to blame.
No, I didn't even blame. It's just as soon as it felt like I got ice on it, it is what it was. And then I was already in that mindset of.
So what did you mean when you said you were mad at Pete for a second?
Well, I think it was just because it's pain. Like your pain causes
you. You were blaming Pete.
Yeah, probably.
For like a minute. You want to say it because he's your beach partner now. But Pete, if you're listening. No, Eric blames you to this day.
What I'm saying, but by going to the games, that player's still there, and like, so you shouldn't.
So you were resenting Pete because he was out there laughing and jumping.
That's what I'm telling you. You,
He's
yeah. Oh, this is
he's
great.
He's out there skipping and laughing. Are you okay over there?
Yeah. If he did that, then I would hate him, and I would casually roll the ball. No, I wouldn't do it. That'd be terrible.
This jumping and landing is really fun, Eric. You should try it.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
I probably made jokes. Hey, Pete, how's it feel to land on flat, even ground?
Nice cover, Pete.
Yeah, right. Do that. He probably felt way worse than I did.
Oh, of course. It's the worst. And so, yeah. So I think that, so what was your point there that you did go watch it?
Yeah. And then, so I'm with that player. So if for whatever reason, like maybe parents, if your kid is like blaming the other kid, like,
oh, I got you.
That I don't think that should happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
then
being around them will diffuse it. Like you'll see, they didn't mean to do it.
That's actually a really good point you said, because I think in youth volleyball, like a lot of protective parents, of course, people are protective of their kids, overly protective. No. They might blame someone else, but it's going, like, don't blame the kid who's under the net. Even me in my case, like, remember what I said? I warned my team about these guys in the air. I didn't blame the guy. I blamed myself, because I was like, what did I?
You knew.
I knew what was happening, and
we've been the person.
It's an accident.
It's an accident.
And don't forget, parents, if what we already said too, like these injuries can be sometimes super helpful if they're not obviously catastrophic, like not, obviously, but like these small injuries that take us out for a season, they can
hopefully
be seen
they're
as
the
gifts.
little ones.
Hopefully they're little ones that don't take a whole season, but
worse than a finger sprain. Those are like whatever. Just tape them up. A little bit of shoulder pain, ankle pain, small ankle roll. Those are the good ones.
Those are the good ones. But even like we said, like sometimes it's weird how life like does things, like these things that are awful. It almost, I can honestly say that the older I've gotten and the more I've seen and interacted with other people and had more things happen in my life and seen like real trauma happen to people, sometimes you're like, there are some, like 99% of, maybe 90% of awful things. It's almost like eventually if the person doesn't dwell in it and get it. If the person acts as a result of the tragedy or bad thing, it always ends up someplace good, unless they live in it too long.
Say that again.
Like if somebody acts, if they take actions, if the incident affects who they are as a person and sends them in a different, unexpected direction, it always works out. And injuries are like that too. Like. Again, I never so my leg numbness, which I thought was, is this the early symptom of something severe? Like I was thinking, like this, and I didn't know.
It worried.
It was because you don't know, right? It's nerve stuff, and you're like, this is weird. Is this a symptom of something that's going to get degenerative as I get older, or is it going to be something where I can't walk when I'm older? And but it sent me down this path of looking into it, and investigating, and then realizing that nerve entrapment is a thing, and you need to start doing these other movements, and now I can advise someone else. And then when I have other injuries or other problems, I see them as so much less important, because that was like that to me, I was almost thinking, am I going to be in a wheelchair when I'm older? Like, is this what's happening, right? Like I would sneeze and my legs would go numb. I'm serious.
Really?
It's true. Yeah, which is terrifying. Right?
That is terrifying.
I would back set, so the tournaments, there were tournaments where I decided to set.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I would back set, and I couldn't back set because my legs would go numb on a back set. I'm like, what's happening to my spine? It's the spinal stuff, right? So it was, but it sent me down that thing. Yeah, sent me down a path of understanding how the body works better and doing. You had
never had an injury like that.
No, never. I knew
completely new.
Yeah, I just thought, was there growth? Is there something in my body that's happening? So I think that and for me, watching it was tough. But on this, by the same token, like. Once I found the source of it, even if let's suppose it was catastrophic, let's suppose it was heading in some horrible direction, I like to think that, what's that theory that we were for 6 months, there's like an allowance period of 6 months where people will become, maybe intolerable, very difficult when they are faced with catastrophic news. But then after about 6 months, we start to settle into what we would be anyway. Like, so if you are, let's suppose you're a negative person, then you're going to be a negative person 6 months after. If you're a positive person, you're going to be a positive person, but 6 months after dealing through the grief cycle. And so there's that notion that that's who you're going to be. Like, you're going to be a positive person going through this, or a negative person. And so, it's interesting. So, but we have to open up. Like we can, if we see the value in bad things for athletes and parents, it helps get rid of the blame is what I'm saying too. If your athlete gets injured by someone else, if your child, understand that it could have been vice versa. It could have been the other way around. It's not intentional. So there's some value in the process of suffering, right?
Always.
It's hard to watch your loved ones go through it, of course. And we probably feel worse than they do many times because we're watching it. We can't do anything.
Yeah.
But they can play a role in that, right? Yeah, I think that, it should have breed. One thing I had was it breeds an appreciation for health. That's another thing too. Yeah. Players, if you get an injury, don't forget that you shouldn't take your health for granted.
What's that?
Players who can't play anymore.
Warren Buffett thing?
Yeah, about the car in your body. Yeah. You want to say that story? You remember it?
I don't remember it.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. I'm glad it made an impression on you. So
I was having about if you, oh no, I got it. So say your body's like a car and you only have one car for your whole life.
Yes.
He's like, was he talking to students or something? He's like, if you have one car for your entire life.
He was talking to me. I was having lunch with Warren Buffett. It was actually a buffet. I was having a buffet with Warren Buffet.
You have one car your entire life. Are you going to take care of it? And all the students said, yeah, of course.
Of course. That's the only car we have.
Yeah. Just like your body.
Just like your body.
Bam.
Yeah. Because Warren Buffett, does something physically. That's how he lasts. He's living so long because he takes care of his body. He does drink a Coke every day and eats McDonald's, but I think that's just because his company is a shareholder.
Yeah.
So he's trying to act like.
He's not exactly an athlete, but
no, but he does take care of his body, and that's a great idea. That if athletes can learn that, think of their body like a car, and that if you only had one car the rest of your life, you would treat it like gold, right? So if you only have one body, like we literally treat our bodies worse than we treat vehicles, right? So sometimes you got to change your tires.
Choose?
Yeah, change your oil.
Dialysis?
The
analogy only goes so far.
You got to pee out the old stuff and you got to drink new pee. No, just kidding. Don't drink pee. Kids, don't drink pee. Speaking of medical advice. No, but breathing, if you can appreciate good health and appreciate when you're healthy and understand that you're not going to always be healthy. And take a little bit of fear, healthy fear that, this could be gone tomorrow. So let me take care of it.
Because when you get older, being pain-free is like gold.
It is.
Your pain-free body is the best thing ever.
Yeah, and imagine like the certain benchmarks of stretching that seniors and adults, even parents listening, right? There's some movements that you can start to do every day, get better at. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And if you can do them, then they say you have good mobility all the way to well into your
basic
hundreds. And the last thing I think we touched on it already, but the mental hurdle coming back. Any advice for players coming back from injury when your forearm injury was happening, your elbow injury, ankle, back?
It just I'm not a good example because like I go into that, like I get depressed. I don't have huge support or whatever. Like, the best thing for me is like I've just been through it before, and like you do forget about it. So that's not the best advice. That's not advice. It's just experience. But
yeah, I think the more for me, last advice I would give really, because I think we're running out of time here. But the best advice I would do is like get as mentally tough on that. So you had to test that injured area out in the gym in a safe, controlled environment as much as possible. Yeah. Put it under stress test there.
I guess I automatically did that too.
Yeah. What I'm doing right now. Yeah. I think that's what I'm doing right now is I know that if I can do a single-legged calf raise and feel as normal as my right calf or my right Achilles feels the same as my left Achilles, then I'm ready to go out there. And so in the gym, I was doing some, double-legged stuff to see how it felt on both legs. And then I'll go to a single-leg stuff, see how it feels, compare. And then if I get to a point, and then, do some practice jumps, do some warm-ups and test it out safely, controlled environment, then the more you do of that, like we talked about in everything, preparation takes away the stress of other situations. So I think that's a great one to help you with the mental hurdle of coming back and then easing yourself back in. When you go to the gym, don't go 1,000% right away. Take it easy, just like we talked about before. Get a good warm up, get a good sweat. Yeah. And then post stuff too, right? When you're done, you're coming back from an injury, don't just leave the gym. Do some little bit of stretching work on the way out, because that scar tissue is going to cause more soreness in that area.
When you feel ready, go and play, and then you'll see how it is.
Yeah.
You get that's going to be your best
That's the real
feedback.
test. Yeah. You get out there and play and
Yeah.
crunch time. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. That was pretty good.
Cool.
So yeah, hopefully that helps somebody just understand that injuries happen and how you can deal with them, and that it is short. It is short. It feels long now.
Yeah.
But as you age, these injuries.
They're good opportunities.
Yeah.
You're kind of set up to naturally move beyond them, and it gives you more ownership.
Yeah. So quit whining about your injury and enjoy it. No. All right. So we'll wrap that up. Hope everybody gained something from that. We'll see y'all next week on Volleyballogy Uncensored. What'd you say?
I said gained. You said gained.
Gained?
Gains.
What? Oh, gains like gains.
Yeah, gains.
Yeah, no pain, no
Gains, bro.
gain. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, I'm just gonna stop this now because this is nonsense.
What's the big idea?